Back to that Blaney card, there are several photos of it floating around today, including one from the heat race where you can clearly see how different the top wing is in comparison to, if you want to just look back in that picture, the 32 of Bryce Lucius behind him. Dave Blaney has long been a mad sprint car scientist, and it's not been uncommon to see wild-looking cars rolled out of their trailer. This current iteration had people talking, but there's a lot more to see beyond just that top wing, which is mounted way more towards the right. It's turned a bit and has side panels mounted like the Crite 69K or the Silva qualifying wing on the 57. The nose wing as well has the sideboards mounted very differently. What stands out to me more, though, is the suspension on the car. My friend Paul Arch sent me this photo from yesterday, and you get a good look at how offset the car is with that rear axle. We can also see a very different shock and spring setup than we see anywhere else. This car actually has both torsion arms and bars, but also coilovers. The standard in the game right now is shocks with torsion bars and arms. And then we've got Tanner Thorson and Sammy Swindell running coilover cars with no torsion bars. Here, though, we've got Blaney running both. I'm told that that right rear bar is actually longer than standard, and the tube had to be extended to accommodate it. And these shocks on the car, they're not a standard FK or a Penske or a CSI. These are actually through rod shocks from Penske. The Outlaw rulebook specifically mentions the 7700T shock from Penske as allowed, which look like this. Those of you who pay attention to my late model content here know that we've talked through rod shocks before and how they were made illegal for the Major Touring Series last year. In sprint car racing, though, they are allowed by the rulebook, though. You can see the through rod poking out here on the left rear, and the bags on the right rear are just protecting the coil and the top of the through rod from dirt and things like that. The first pictures I have of Blaney's car on through rod shocks are actually from 2023. Photos from 2022 and Dave's win at Sharon in 2021 show more traditional Penske's on the car. So what's good about a through rod shock? Well, as I've said here before, the reason this type of shock could be beneficial is because of displacement of oil inside the shock body. In a standard shock, as the rod goes in, it displaces some of that oil, which creates added spring rate. A through rod shock doesn't have that problem because the same amount of rod is always inside the body, so no added oil displacement and no added spring rate. Something else to point out here with the through rods is it looks like they use them on the front also, but they needed to make some modifications to the front nose wing to allow for that rod to travel. In these two photos, you can see what looks like cutouts, which would allow for that extra travel space in that nose wing. And as a friend said to me today, it proves that sprint car teams maybe aren't quite in as tight a box as some want us to believe. There is still at least some space for innovation for those willing and able to take these risks.